terms of criminal responsibility, we are talking about whether the individual, when they committed the crime, were they in their right state of mind? Were there any factors in terms of mental health, whether it was delusions, hallucinations, or whatever during that time? Yeah, so if we are convinced, we have evidence that indeed there was such factors affecting the individual during that time, therefore they do not have what we call criminal responsibility, so they should not be should not follow the normal channels of going to the court and stuff like that. And then we have the second issue of triability. Yeah, so depending on the first answer to your first question, whether they're criminally responsible or not, you may also still want to assess whether they are triable. That is, are they able to follow court proceedings? Do they understand what's going on? Are they able to defend themselves? Yeah, so those are probably the two main concepts regarding forensic psychiatry or forensic mental health. So I recommend students to read about the history about Daniel McNaughton, just to build up to their understanding of forensic psychiatry.
Yeah. Okay. Just before you proceed, thank you so much. I mean, you're bringing, very important insights there. I'm just keen, when you mentioned the observational clients, I'm just keen, probably somebody has committed a crime and they now want to pretend that they are mentally not well. How do you guys handle that?
Oh, so what you're talking about here is what we call malingering.
Right.
That means the person is, people commit various crimes, some of them very serious crimes. And if you look at the history of McNaughton, it was murder. It was a murder case. And often in our forensic psychiatry units, we also have quite a number of high rates of murder cases there. So for us to determine whether the client is malingering or not, we actually have to use a team approach there. So in our team, usually we have a clinical psychologist, we have a psychiatrist, we have nurses, we have other doctors, we have occupational therapists, and
social workers.
Social workers, very important. And usually in a forensic setting, you have security officers there as well. Although they are not a professional group, but they are also quite important.
Right.
So, for example, say clinical psychologists, they administer some of the tests. They actually test that they administer to test for malingering, for example.
Okay.
And then you have to take a bit of proper history and gather information, collateral information from the social workers, and then you do your observations. And often with your experience, if someone says they are hearing voices and they've never heard voices, it's different from someone who actually heard voices.
Yeah.
So if they say they are hearing voices, you question further, you want to interview the client further, there isn't much information going. But someone who actually heard voices, they will tell you, I hear the voice at times, whether they tell you, is it a familiar voice or an unfamiliar voice? And we know that majority of them, they're usually familiar voice. They actually tell you it's the voice of who, or and they're telling you to do A, B, C, D.
Right.
So so those are some of the techniques that you gather in the setting that will help you to actually determine whether the person is malingering or not. And then you have obviously to combine it with some other information, for example, how the crime was actually committed.
Right.
There's actually there's normal way of committing a crime. And not so normal way of committing a crime, you see.
Right.
Yeah, so often our clients, the way that they commit crime is not the normal way of committing crime. They'll commit a crime and they're there at the scene. They actually found there next to the dead body, and then they are doing what funny things, Yeah, and the normal way of committing crime, people commit crime in the layers. Oh, they've done this, and they try to hide, they run away,
Right.
they do what. Yeah. So typically our clients, you find, this other not so normal way of committing crime is quite common. Yeah, so I would say perhaps those are a couple of things that, so it's basically a team effort, and then gathering all that information, you actually come to an agreement whether the client is malingering or not. And then, of course, at times you actually do not find signs and symptoms of mental illness, which is actually key here.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Sorry for diverting you, but you can.
No, it's fine. Yes. All right. I don't know. So in terms of the first category, the observation, I think it's more or less the same as how we end up assessing malingering. But I would like to highlight that typically in a forensic psychiatry setting, when we have observation clients, we do not treat them. Usually, depending on the laws of the country, like here in Namibia, 30 days in a forensic psychiatry observation unit, no treatment, no medication, no, you want to withdraw all the medication, you want to withdraw all the intervention, because you really want to pick if there are real signs and symptoms there. Okay, so that's quite key. So whatever activities that we do as occupational therapists in observation unit is to assess. If you check in our books, I think one of the common psychiatry books that we use here in Southern Africa, that is a forensic section there. They talk about a diagnostic art group, where you can do such activities, and from that, it's known that from literature, there is evidence that those who are malingering, for example, usually draw or still life pictures, or they just copy images. It's known that usually clients who suffer from who have schizophrenia usually draw some bizarre pictures or daggers or these funny things, and we have all those examples. And those with bipolar, they tend to be all over the place, and in terms of the drawings and being colorful and so forth and so forth.
Right. Just for the purpose of students who might want to know that resource, well, do you have the name of the book there, or is something that we can find later on?
It's Crouch.
Oh, Crouch. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah, Rosemary Crouch.
Okay.
Yeah, they can just pick the latest edition. I think it's a blue one now. It used to be red and what, but now the latest one is a blue one.
I remember that.
Let me just show you. I have it in my locker.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, great stuff. I also have that one on my desk as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we have the whole chapter there that nicely summarizes your forensic mental health. Okay, so after that, so we run quite a number of groups, a number of activities, and in observation, like I said, the main purpose is to pick up any signs and symptoms of mental illness. Okay. Right. And often then we usually have a team meeting where we have all the team members, they present their findings, and usually it's headed by the head of the team, who is usually the psychiatrist, and then the psychiatrist will write a report which is sent to the court. So yeah, that brings another important point here. In forensic mental health or in forensic psychiatry, whatever you do there is not in private. Okay, from admission to discharge of your clients. Right. So like we said, it's an interface between psychiatry or mental health and the law. So any member of the team, anyone who was involved in the assessment or in the intervention with the client is a witness and can be called to the courts. It often doesn't happen for OTs, but in my experience there, we have had several cases or times where OTs had to go to the courts to defend their findings.
Right.
Yeah, it can also happen that in that team, in the observation team, you can actually have a kind of a split decision where half of the team are saying no, there is mental illness, half of the team they are saying no mental illness.
Wow.
So, but yeah. So in such cases, yeah, you actually have to be quite accurate in your assessment and stick to your assessments, not to be moved by other professions. If you believe that your findings are pointing to A, B, C, D, you have to stick to that. Otherwise, if you go to the courts and you were swayed by another member of the team and the lawyers are now asking you questions, it becomes a yeah, you don't want to find yourself in such a situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the first aspect of forensic mental health and OT there. And then the second group is after this first phase and observations, and the courts perhaps recommend that yes, this individual was mentally ill during the time that they committed the crime, and yes, he or she needs intervention, rehabilitation. Then they are sent to a forensic psychiatry unit. Like I said earlier, these facilities are in different settings depending where you are practicing. Yeah. So where I practiced in Namibia was mainly under the Ministry of Health, and so the same team is involved in the rehabilitation, and there we do quite a number of activities. The intervention is not really much different from the rest of the mental health interventions that we provide, because the ultimate goal is for them to function.
Yeah.
And because you find that they, although each individual will have their, well, goals, treatment goals, and that needs to be achieved. We have like the main approach that we use at the unit, because they are staying there for long. It was centered actually around vocational rehabilitation, vocational work rehabilitation.
Right.
Because as you are aware, majority of us, it's by nature, we spend 8 hours a day at work. So our program was also centered around work. So we devised different work programs, from low functioning to high functioning. And the way the unit is set up is such that we have the admission ward where new clients are admitted, and the OT there, the main role is to now do another assessment to determine the current functional level of the client, and introduce activities that they might enjoy and assess their current functioning.
Do you have any examples of like assessments that you do in that setting?
In the setting, we use the EPOM. You know EPOM? EPOM, the activity participation outcome measure. It's a tool that is developed from the Vonda Detroit model of creative ability. It's a very good tool, especially if you are in a setting where it's fairly medium to long term, because it gives you the current functioning level. I think it is around 8 domains, which looks at is it process skills, communication skills, etc., motivation, etc., etc. And yeah, and it gives, after you've used this tool at your initial assessment, it actually draws a nice web curve showing the current level of functioning there. And then as you do your intervention, and you perhaps after every 6 months, because usually it's a long term, after every 6 months, you can go back again and check whether there is a movement, in which direction is motivation moving, is process, what is improving and what is not so improving. And then you re-administer and you re-look at your intervention. So it's quite
it's a good outcome
tool in in such a setting. So we actually use that. And if you, unfortunately, I'm no longer there, but if you go back there, you actually find that every patient has or is supposed to be having that OT file to determine their current level of function.
Right.
Now, that level of, if you use the Vonaditoid mode of creative ability, so the activities that are prescribed also actually would depend now on the level of functioning of the client. So for those in the low functioning, we also have certain work activities that we have there, and then moving on through all those up to the high functioning. And also, from the admission ward, we also go to the medium security ward, and then we have the rehab or open ward. So it's a 3-tier system. It's actually, based on, I think it's the same in South Africa. I think, Namibia and South Africa share the same history. So some of these laws and acts and how we do interventions are more or less the same.
Right. So is it like the service user moves through all those levels, or they can be discharged at any of those levels, acute, medium, long term?
Ideally, they move from that closed ward to semi-open to that open ward. And open ward, usually they are running the program, they are on their own, they have their daily program, they manage themselves, whereas in the admission ward, usually it's kind of structured for them.
Right.
Okay. However, usually there are other challenges. For example, if the movement discharges, because usually in forensic psychiatry, like we said, they are not, they are present patients. So they are discharged by the courts.
Yeah.
And it's a long process. And what can happen is discharges might be quite slow to move. So you might have even fairly high functioning patients in still the admission ward. You don't wait to recommend for discharge because we have a rehab ward that is still full. If a person is functioning to your satisfaction, that you feel that they are safe to go back to the community and they are safe to, then you recommend to the courts for discharge. Right. So in here you will have such instances where a person is still in the admission ward, they go straight home. Yeah, but those are institutional challenges.
I see.
Probably, yeah.
I see. Thanks for that.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know what else do you want?
Maybe you can break down some of the activities that happen there, because I remember when you were at Windhoek Central Hospital when I was working in Namibia. There was a time when I actually came to the mental health center, and I met one of the clients that I had seen when I was working in the northern part of Namibia. I know when I saw him at that hospital, it was a referral hospital, but there was no forensic services. So he was sort of like restricted in terms of the activities that you could engage in. For example, if I would go as an OT to get the service users out for an activity, according to law, he was not permitted to go out. So he was sort of like really getting depressed and stuff like that. And then when I visited Windhoek Central Mental Health Center, I actually met him. I think he was now working in the tuck shop, or was he doing cleaning of cars, car wash, or something like that. Can you just maybe give us some of the examples of activities that you can actually implement with clients or service users in a forensic setting, considering obviously all the risks around this and the security measures?
Okay. Yeah, so just to highlight that in forensic setting, one of the biggest limitation is the world out there, they still view these clients as criminals.
Yeah, yeah.
So as such, they are kind of restricted to, in terms of us OTs, we want to take these clients out there to do shopping, to go to the post office, to do, those activities that we do as OTs. So unfortunately, we struggle to do this because we have to do majority of our activities in the facility. So yeah, as we do these activities, we will definitely want to improve function in general, as you are aware, and we want to prevent institutionalization.
Right.
So we do activities that point to that, ensure that at least our clients feel like they're in touch with the outside world, and at the same time they're doing activities that they potentially, when they are discharged, they may potentially continue with the same activities to, perhaps to improve their income and actually, of course, to remain functioning. So we have quite a variety of activities. If I may pinpoint mainly the work activities, we have a wood workshop, we have a garden, we do laundry, we run a car wash. And these activities
and there was a tuck shop as well.
Yeah, we do. They run a tuck shop. These patients, they run a tuck shop. We prefer that they actually go and order the stock for the tuck shop, but unfortunately, like I said, because of the limitations, the therapists have to assist them to order their stock for the tuck shop. These activities are contextually relevant activities, which they can actually do, and some of them when they are discharged. And here and there we run a coffee shop. Yeah, and then up there in OT, for medium and low functioning, we have other projects like batik, African batik. I think some of you are familiar with that. Leatherwork, sewing, etc., etc. And we also have other groups that probably not work related, like a newspaper group where you discuss current affair issues, for them to keep in touch on what's going around out there. And because they stay long in the unit, we carry out, like, every month, from the funds that we get from some of these projects, we have birthdays so that they celebrate birthdays with their friends there. On holidays, special holidays, Easter or Christmas, we also have some functions like a Christmas party, or we look for donations for gifts, and so that they feel like they are part of the community. Of course they are. So we have to make efforts to make sure that so we also have a cultural day. Then we also do some sporting activities, like play soccer, volleyball, games. So what we do is we try to cover all the occupational performance areas as far as possible. Though work is the main one. Meaningful. Yes. So we have that focus on leisure and play. We have tried to engage social participation. Here and there, we have managed to organize some tournaments, like soccer sports day, where we actually engage other maybe teams from correctional facility, what we call prison services. And then we had to it's a hassle to get all the paperwork done, approvals. But we know us as OTs, at least they are able to move out of
can make things happen.
Yes. And the times, when you have this annual agricultural show, we manage to motivate, to get letters, approvals. And then for those who are ready for discharge, we want them to start already mingling with the community out there. Because we do not have step-down facilities. They are discharged straight from forensic unit, straight home.
I see.
Which is a bit of a challenge in our setting. So as OTs, we try to come up with ways of develop something like program that is kind of step down.
Definitely. That's been so innovative. Typical of OTs. Right. Thanks for that. I mean, thanks for sharing all this information. I'm just keen to know from you, because you're somebody who has been working in this setting for many, many years. What would you consider to be the good things about working in this setting as an OT? And what do you also consider to be probably maybe the negative side of working in this setting as an OT?
Well, yeah, I think that's a tough one. But I think I can say I'm really proud to be in this field, especially from Zim side, because if I remember well, I was probably one of the first OTs.
It's not the only, yeah, the first one, I think.
Yeah.
Never heard of anybody going to work in prison services, really.
Yeah. And when I got there, I actually realized, I think it was at Chikurubi where we had mental health service users there in this ward unit. It was called service center.
That's the maximum security.
Yes,
right.
Yes, maximum security there at Chikurubi. Yeah, then you see, we have these prison officers, we have all those other team members there. They just believe that, these people are mentally ill, so they just sit there, they don't do anything.
Oh.
And there was really a big need, one in terms of starting occupation-based activities for our clients so that they can function, and at the same time educating, other team members there, like your prison officers, so that they understand, motivating, for a piece of land, so that you can also start a gardening project for them. And
so you did all this?
I tried, and wow. I think one of the, perhaps something that I got right was to motivate for one of the OTs there, one of the rehab worker there to train as an OT. Wow. I think he went back, and for me, that was an achievement, because
great. Yeah.
At least there was like someone to continue and open the doors for OTs there.
Wow. So you're really a pioneer.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. We might have to check the history. Maybe they could have been OTs before, but I doubt. I didn't see any.
No, we never heard of
evidence of OTs in correctional facilities.
Wow.
Yeah. So in Namibia, it's the same issue that, like I said, we have security officers in correctional facilities in our units. And when you want to engage these activities, there's some kind of resistance, because at times they don't understand why you want your clients to work to do all these activities. Mm-hmm. And because it's a forensic setting, some of the securities, it's an issue. Not that these clients are really a big security risk. What makes it a security risk is perhaps other individuals who perhaps have a lack of understanding, of mental health. Right. Because remember, we also have cleaners in the same unit. You have security officers. You also have other workers that bring food and stuff like that. And the way they may interact with the clients actually may provoke some of them to be a bit violent.
So I think there's lots of education for the, staff who are in this.
Yes. And in some of the groups that you actually have with your clients, at times you encourage some of them to join in the activities, to be part. Yeah, because when we're playing soccer, everyone is having the uniform. You can't tell who is a client, who is a staff member. So initially, it was a big issue for them. But with time, you mingle and everyone is wearing the same uniform, and you can't tell who is who, except for those who have obvious symptoms that, for others that are highly functioning, you can't tell who is who. And that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think it's very important, in terms of creating that a sense of community, a sense of belonging.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, what about the negative side? Anything that you might say, probably this could be the negative side of this setting? I know you might not have, because you love this.
Yeah, I think I will have a bit of challenge to find the negative side. I think I would say stigma is okay. Stigma is a big thing in mental health,
right?
And when you are working with someone who committed murder, for example, and they are mentally ill, people out there, they don't understand. They say, okay, so they deserve to be what what are you doing all these things for? So you want to plan for a Christmas party for forensic patients? Yeah, so I guess I don't know whether it's negative side or maybe challenges. I don't know. Yeah, so to motivate that, they don't understand why. Do you think taxpayers' money to give to, so those
people have made that. Yeah. I see.
Yes, so people don't understand the issue of forensic mental health. You see,
I see.
We are saying they are not guilty due to mental illness. So I think that's the starting point, and our job is to rehabilitate them.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Yeah. So that's a bit of a challenge in the system, but overall, I think everywhere mental health and stigma is also a big thing.
Big issue.
Yeah, it's a big issue. But when it comes to forensic, it becomes a much bigger issue.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really good that you are bringing those perspectives of let's look at these service users or these clients as people who, I mean, they committed the crime because they were mentally not well. So what they actually need is that rehab, that help. That's what they need.
Yes. Yeah, okay. And often when we had like a few visitors into our unit, there's one question that they would always ask: do you feel safe working with these people? That's always a big question from them.
Yeah.
And our response is, we are actually much safer in here with these clients because we know them.
Yeah.
Remember, there are lots of potential people who are mentally ill, who are undetected, who are in the community, who might actually commit. So you are less safer out there than in here.
I like that point. Great. Okay, I'm seeing our time is running. Maybe just to some students who might be starting to develop interest in this setting or in forensic OT. What could be your words of encouragement or words of wisdom or advice, whatever you can share?
Well, the first thing is there is a big need here for us OTs in the field of forensic mental health in Zimbabwe, in Namibia, in African settings.
Yeah, throughout the world. Really.
Throughout the world, there is really a big need to help this group of mental health service users. And well, I don't know. Yeah, it's a big opportunity, in terms of those who want to do research, those who want to. It's a big opportunity because there isn't much written in regarding mental health in different countries, especially in low income and middle income countries. So if you want to further your studies, something to consider in forensic something to do with forensic mental health and occupational therapy. Yeah, and we have people like us who are there to support you. So that's also a big point. So you don't need to be scared because we have support to guide you in forensic mental health. And yeah, I think it's also quite fulfilling. If you look at our main outcomes of our projects there at Forensic Unit, we ended up having some of our clients getting employed in the open labor market despite the challenges of the history of them labeled as criminals, labeled as mental health service, or they call them MED, of course, the term that we don't want to hear. Yeah, we have clients who started their own projects.
Wow.
You know, those who worked in the tuck shop, they started their own tuck shops there. They are running their car wash. They, you know, so we have had success regarding, so which is quite rewarding for us as OTs.
It is.
Yeah, but of course we have also had our challenge. We also
fair share of challenges
that yeah, you know, after staying in the unit for years, they go out there, they just feel, it's now freedom, which is why they must not stay for long in forensic settings. And then what happens, they start using substances, they, you know, and then they relapse quickly and they come back. Yeah, so those are some. So obviously, maybe if we can in the future have some OTs in the community to continue with what we do in the
for continuity of service sustainability.
Actually, I was in South Africa several years ago in forensic settings. Actually, we observed that these clients, they don't stay that long in forensic settings. Once they are stabilized, they need to go back into the community. I think that's the new trend. We need to provide as much support in the community, not in the institutions. So I think for OTs, those who are going to engage in any kind of institution, mental health institution, and including forensic psychiatry institutions, the current trend is to push for our clients, you know, to be stabilized
and be in the community
months, and you already motivate for them to continue to go back into the community and receive rehabilitation in their own natural settings. That's the way forward.
Thank you so much, Munya. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but this has been Munya Raji Chimara. He's a lecturer in occupational therapy at the University of Namibia, and he's got lots of years of experience in forensic OT, mental health settings. There you go, you heard it from the horse's mouth. He was there at Chikurubi Maximum Prison as an OT, probably one of the first OTs to do that. And then later
I was not in prison,
you were not in prison, everything was OT. So I mean, it's great, really. So this resource is for everybody who might find it useful. In case you've enjoyed this talk and you are keen to pursue a career in forensic OT, feel free to get in touch. We can still link you up with Chimara. And my name is Tongai from Motivate OTs. So until next time, so this brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so much, Munya.
Thank you. This is a very good, I think, initiative, and well done, guys. And if you keep on supporting you, if there's any need, if you want us to give more information and share, we are willing to
definitely. We'll come with round 2.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, guys. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye-bye.